The 1951-52 Bathurst CYO Juvenile hockey team was the toast of the province. After taking the Northern New Brunswick Championship with wins over Campbellton and Chatham, they took on the Dieppe Royals for the New Brunswick crown. After a 3-3 draw in the first game, the Bathurst CYO Juveniles went down to Moncton for the final game. They scored the tying goal with less than a minute remaining in regulation and won the New Brunswick Championship in dramatic fashion in overtime. The 1951-52 Bathurst CYO Juveniles, 2010 inductees in the team category in the Bathurst Sports Hall of Fame.
Most of the fellows on the team were friends. Even like Emil Christie was my first cousin, and he still is. And we sort of chummed together, and there was, as somebody mentioned a while ago, there was no bickering or anything like that. Everybody just took things as they went, and I think it was the team spirit that got us through.
Winning the New Brunswick Championship and then going on to play for the New Brunswick PEI tournament and watching a Forbes Kennedy score 11 goals and then go on to be an NHL player in for the Detroit Red Wings and the Boston Bruins.
So Forbes Kennedy played for Prince Edward Island that year against you guys?
He scored, and I was supposed to shadow him, and I followed him around and watched him score 11 goals.
Well, half of the guys are related to me. I know them all, and no, we played together for quite a while in the house league, and from there on we went on to the provincials and that stuff. I know them very well. I meet them almost every day. I'm a Bathurst man, and I stuck around Bathurst. I spent 3 months up in Elliott Lake, but I had to come back.
Oh, everybody was there to give it their best, you know. Everybody was jolly all the time. We knew we were winning, and we wanted to win, and that's the way we played.
We worked for hours and hours outside on outdoor rinks. Like we'd make a rink in somebody's backyard, and everybody would chip in. And half the time it wasn't level, but you know, towards the end of the year it would get level because we'd have it filled with slush and water. And every Sunday afternoon there was always a game without skates. Just we learned how to stick handle and stuff like that during those days. You know.
And one of the things that we'll never forget is that outdoor rink in South Bathurst where we used to practice.
Talk to me about that rink. It must have been cold.
It sure was. We would go out there and practice in the evening, and we had open strings of lights over the ice, and we just couldn't wait to get off the ice to get into the dressing room, which was heated up with wood fire.
Oh, it was very, very cold. I remember playing in East Bathurst, and it was so cold that you'd have a pair of skates which was much bigger than what you needed, and so you'd have a chance to put 2 or 3 pairs of socks in, and your feet would freeze anyway. And as Harold mentioned, you were anxious to get back into the room to warm your feet between the periods.
He was strict but firm, but he knew what he was doing, you know. What he wanted you to do, you better do it, or else that was it.
He was a person that was hard to read because he was very serious, but as Kenny Levine said, he knew what he was doing, and although you didn't know why he was doing it at the time, you know that he had something in mind, and you know that he was looking towards the end.
The only thing I remember him saying to the goaltenders was that don't shoot the score in the practice. Shoot on the goaltender. Make him feel the puck. And that stood out in my mind. and never did I try to score in a practice.
If I was coaching against you, what would my strategy be?
To try to stop Emil Christie from scoring. We had a first line which was really, really great. I mean, they scored a lot of goals, and I know in that Camelton, the Camelton game down here, we lost 6-4 in Camelton, but we won 11-7 in Bathurst. So that would indicate that defensively we weren't as much defensive as the teams are today. We were more offensive. As Lee Morrison scored 4 goals, and Eddie David and Emil Christie scored 2 each, and so there was a lot of scoring.
Red was an extremely good goaltender, and most of the games that we had won in the North Shore, where Red was our goaltender.
Well, I can remember that playing in the house league, we were offensive. But going against Moncton and Prince Edward Island, we had to be defensive. And we had the best defense that we possibly put together in Harold McLean and Eddie David and the other team. It's a team effort. We played with the heart for the heart. And it was amazing how Ev Deuce put a team together like that.
In the dressing room, about 10 minutes before we got on the ice, we were all kind of nervous, and Ev Deuce would say, "Okay, boys, time for your nervous pee." And there was no toilet; it was just a funnel. We would all pee into the funnel, so it wasn't a room. It wasn't a room for a girls' team, that's for sure. And I lived next door to the rink, and I was at the rink 3-4 times a day to see if it wasn't freezing up, because there was puddles everywhere on the ice, and I knew we were playing in a couple of days. And I was just praying that it would freeze, but no, the weather was mild, and you'd go up the ice sometimes and the puck would get caught in a puddle of water and stay there, you know, so it was hard to play on.
And you didn't play indoors that often anyway at
No.
the Bathurst Arena.
No.
But for this tournament, you were playing indoors.
Yeah.
So.
Red Chesson, who was our regular goaltender, he come down with pneumonia along with Ed Doucet, and Guy O'Connell took over in nets. We played in Bathurst here, and we tied Dieppe 3-3 in that game.
I remember the night too that Red Chesson, when he really got sick that time, we were playing down shore, and it was blowing about 50-mile-an-hour wind, and it was about -30, and of course we were playing up forward, so we were moving around, but Red was in the net and he couldn't move around, and that's when he got sick. It was just terrible. And you're playing defense and you didn't have to skate backwards. The wind would push you, you know. So.
Do you remember, your man scored the goal with what, 15 seconds left in regulation time to send it to overtime?
Oh.
First of all, do you remember the goal?
Well, Lee Morrison went in the corner and got the puck, and he knew where I was all the time, and I was on the edge of that red line. And at that time, you know, you couldn't be beyond the red line. Now you can't. But I was always there, and he shot that puck out, and Billy Melanson was cutting in on his wing, and once I got by the blue line, he got past the blue line, and he stood as a screen, and I let her go, and it went.
So it was a long shot.
Whew. Yes, it was. It was a wrist shot, no slap shot in those days. I know I didn't know how to slap shot, so it was a wrist shot.
We went in to the dressing room, and Paul Hillier told us at that time that we had beat a better team, and that was his team, the Camelton team. And he told us that we beat the better team and to go out and play our own game, and we would win.
Where were you when Pelche scored that goal? Were you on the ice, on the bench?
I'm not sure. Doesn't matter where I was as happy as go like it. You know, we made it to the top.
was a road trip for that game. So were there any Bathurst fans who made the trip? Was there, or were you guys celebrating by yourselves?
No, we were all in cars, donated, you know, through the city, like Hathaways. And there was one bad moment coming home of a trip where one of the cars rolled over, and Kenneth Levine was the one that got hurt.
So when we got closer to Lorville, the roads got pretty icy, get pretty slippery. So come around this bend, there was this great big pulp truck parked there, taking up about 3/4 of the road. Tony Robinson, the driver, got by the truck. As we got by, we went to the left-hand side, and then he swung it around to the right-hand side, and when we hit the side of the road, she just kept turning. So we turned between 4 and 5 times, and I was sitting in the back, Legacy sitting next to me. In the front, there was Tony Robinson driving, Lee Morrison, and Billy Melanson. And every time we went over, you could hear the car being crushed. We come to a stop, the door swung open, and when he hit back again, it closed, and my foot was in the door, caught in the door. So when we come to a stop, there was a lot of smoke. Could hardly see what was going on. And the guys were getting out at this time. There was hockey equipment spread all over the field. But I couldn't get out because I was caught there. And they all disappeared. But I started yelling, you know, hey, I can't get out of here. So they come back, finally got the door open, and they dragged me out. By this time, the second car had caught up to us. Everybody stopped. But how are we going to get home from Lorville with just the one car? So they cramped us all this at one car. We got into one car, got home. But they didn't take us to the hospital. I mean, Billy had a cut over his eye. One fellow had a dislocated shoulder. Tony Robinson's face was full of glass. And I could hardly walk. So about 6 in the morning, I couldn't stand the pain anymore. And my mother started calling up the other motors to see what had happened. Finally called a cab and took us to the hospital. And Dr. Johnson, he was the one that looked after me at that time. I was about 4 to 5 days in the hospital.
So you remember Mr. Forbes?
Yes, I remember when we didn't know who Forbes Kennedy was, and there was another short fellow on the team I remember who was just as short as Forbes. And of course, when you haven't seen a team, the thing you do is you size up the team to see how big they are and who's going to crush you and who isn't, you know. And Kenny Gray, who played defense for us, I remember him saying, "Who are those 2 sawed-off hockey players with 2 sawed-off hockey sticks?" Because their sticks were cut off on the end. And we found out during the game who they were because they did all the scoring between the 2 of them.
What the heck happened against Prince Edward Island?
Well, there's one guy that we couldn't stop. That was Forbes Kennedy. And, you know, he went up to play in the National Hockey League. And you know, it's the funny thing. After that, after all these years, Sidney Crosby played here for the Canada Cup or so, Canada Series. And I heard in the crowd that Forbes Kennedy was down coaching one of the teams from Prince Edward Island. So I dropped by, I went down, made a point to go down, knocked on the dressing room door. Who comes in? Forbes Kennedy. You know, a little bit different, a little bulgy here and there, but it was Forbes Kennedy. And I shook his hand and I asked him, "You remember the 51-52 series? Who are you?" I told him I was. And yes, he shook my hand, and it was a moment.
It made me feel good. It was a long time coming. I mean, what we did for this city was really nice. Bunch of young people, you know. It's. I think it's going to be a great thing.
Well, there's one thing I want to thank is the person I want to thank is Ali Bear. Ali Bear, and he was the one that nominated our team, and we were deserving of the nomination for sure. For years and years, we thought, well, why are we not in the Hall of Fame? And sure enough, it was accepted this year, and was certainly deserving of it. And it was a nice feeling to be hung on the same wall as my son.
Well, I was glad because we had done a lot of work about 15 years ago. Harold McLean, myself, and I had gone through tons of Northern Lights that somebody had and found some of the stories, and it didn't work out at the time. But I'm glad that it did work out, because had it happened 15 or 20 years ago, our memories might have been better then. But we were kind of losing it now. We're all about 76, 77 years old, so.
It's something we've been waiting for a number of years. We knew we had a good team, and we're all very happy to be inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame.
The 1951-52 Bathurst CYO Juveniles, 2010 inductees in the team category in the Bathurst Sports Hall of Fame.